Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, because I can't hear you.
We hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. So I can hear you now. All right. So hello, SestraNow sisters. I am so excited to be here with you this evening. May is International, or I think Health Awareness Month. And SestraNow's theme for this month is mental health is wealth. Mental health is wealth. My name is Judelia. I am a teacher from the island of St. Lucia. And I would just like to introduce our presenter for this evening. Our presenter for this evening is Miss Diana Morales. I hope I said that right. She is a postgraduate pre-licensed secular trauma-informed psychotherapist, Christian counselor, and life coach. She is currently working towards obtaining and licensure and certification and looks to open her own practice named Sailor Empowers at the end of the year. She has 30 years of experience in child and family welfare. She currently offers workshops and training in efforts to begin the critical conversation about the importance and necessity of normalizing mental health, wellness, and relational reverence. Again, ladies, I would like to remind you that whatever you are going to learn here tonight is information, it is educational, it is advice. And so we are asking you to seek professional, if there's any need that you have, we're asking that you seek professional advice, do not be afraid to seek counseling, to seek therapy. But what you're going to learn here today is educational, this for educational purposes and for information. So without further ado, I present to you Diana Morales.
Thank you so much. Before you go, Diana, it says that we're live, but I don't see the live.
I do see the live on my end. It says live on Facebook and recording.
No, but I don't see where it is in
the Facebook.
Right. I'm gonna stop the live stream but continue the recording and try to set it up again to see what's going on.
Wait, then. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I will wait. I am so thrilled to be here. You don't understand. This is a humongous passion for me. And I know I post a lot on our Facebook page, messages, but I just wanted to give you a little bit more of a personal reason why this is so important to me. Many years back, about 10 years ago, I experienced some trauma, and I am a survivor of domestic violence. I'm also a survivor of complex PTSD. So in my journey of trying to get better and have mental wellness, I started reading and reading and reading and trying to improve. And that led me to wanting to become a therapist myself. And so I am here today just to share the love and the passion that I have to try to engage in this important information and in an important conversation about the necessity of making mental health normalized. It's a normal part of our lives. So if I can share the screen, can I start now, Annette?
Yes.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about our theme, which is mental health is wealth, the importance of supporting mental awareness. And I like to begin, let me start the slideshow. I'd like to begin with an exercise. And if you be so kind, in the chat, we're going to try this exercise. Place in the chat what comes to mind when you hear the words mental wellness. I'd love to hear what you guys think. What comes to mind when you hear the words mental wellness? So I see peace, stability. Thank you for that. Peace of mind. Thank you so much for that. For me, it's serenity, knowledge, empowerment, elevation. A day at the beach. Ooh, that's my favorite. Ooh, girl, I'm with you on that one. Beach calms my spirit. Yes. So yes, all of those things are very important. So let me move this. Let me just, thank you for that. I can't move the screen. Okay, there. So these are things that we ponder about and we think about when we think about mental wellness. Mental wellness is an integral part of our lives, of our overall health and wellness. Mental wellness, mental health goes along with our physical health. And it also basically mental wellness is how we respond to the lives ups and downs. It's the way that we think, it's the way that we handle our emotions, and it's the way that we act. Um, so I'd like to take a quick self-assessment. If you can write down, I'm going to answer each question. I'm going to go over it with you and rate yourself. Either 1, 2, 1, which is never, 2, which is seldom, 3, which is sometimes, 4, which is often, and 5, which is always. So number 1, just jot it down on the side. I spend 50 hours or more working per week. Rate yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And just jot down the number on the side. Oops, sorry. Oops. Next, number 2, I have difficulty getting an adequate amount of sleep, exercise, hydration, and or nutrition. Rate yourself from 1 to 5. Number 3, I feel exhausted and or overwhelmed when I think of all that I have to do at home and or work or church. Rate yourself 1 through 5. 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Next, 4, I feel like I have little or no control over the demands placed on me at my home and or work or church. Please rate yourself. Number 5, I feel guilty that I'm not meeting my responsibilities at home and or work. Please rate yourself 1 through 5. 1 through 5. And number 6, I neglect taking time for myself, recreation, relaxation, quiet time, or self-care in favor of fulfilling work and family responsibilities. Rate yourself 1 through 5. And then add up each number from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And just give me a thumbs up when you have your total number. You got your number? Okay, thank you. Anyone else got their total number? Are we good? Does everyone have their total number? Okay, great. So these are the results. I fell in number 16. So look at your number. If you fall, these are the results. If you fall anywhere between 24 to 30, a meltdown is waiting to happen. Ooh, we don't want that. If you rate yourself anywhere between 15 and 16, you're getting caught in the thrill of the chase. You gotta be careful. And if you rate anywhere between 14 or less, that's fantastic. That's great. But ask yourself, how long will that last? So what did you learn in looking at your self-assessment? What are some of the things that stood out to you? What are areas that you would like to make some changes? And write down right now, what area do you want to change right now? For me, it's really making it a conscious decision to to do self-care and not work so much. So think about things that could be for you. So good emotional health results in increased resilience, decreased physical health challenges, decrease in chronic stress, ability to remain focused, flexible, and positive, increased productivity, enjoyment at the workplace and at home, healthier relationships, and greater sense of purpose. People with good mental health are able to have better relationships. They're better to are able to resolve conflict better. They're able to process their emotions, like such as disappointments or rejection, and a variety of other emotions. People with good mental wellness engage life with a hopeful and optimistic point of view. Even though we're faced with challenges, you're still thinking of a better time or getting to a better place. So it all begins with you. You are never wrong with how you feel. It begins with self-awareness. Self-awareness means that you are engaging in mega cognition. So to be in cognition means to think, but when it's mega cognition, excuse me, it means that you're thinking about what you're thinking. So you're reflecting on your thoughts. So you first engage yourself by becoming self-aware of your thoughts. Then it leads on to self-assessment and doing an evaluation. Your thoughts lead to feelings. Your feelings lead to actions. Your actions then can lead to habits. So then doing a self-evaluation on how you currently are thinking and how you currently are feeling is very important. Self-monitoring and regulation. That's also very important. That's when you start engaging and looking at, assessing and looking at the thoughts that are coming to you. You can't control the thoughts that come into your mind, but you can control how you respond to them. And you can control changing them if they're negative. Self-motivation is another thing, is the next step, is taking the step to be creative and assessing your current feelings and thoughts and saying and judging whether it's good or it's bad. Can it be worse or can I get better? And then being creative enough and motivated enough to make the decision to do better or to want better. And then self-empowerment. Self-empowerment lies with, if you want better, then making the conscious decision and commitment to self-empower yourself, to find the tools necessary to motivate your mood, your attitude, and the way that you think to be more optimistic and more hopeful. And this brings moods of feelings of hopefulness, and it brings you to resilience. Make self-care and awareness a lifestyle, not an event. So what I mean by that is we must make it a point to add self-care and awareness into your daily schedule. Just like anything, you have to take your kids to school, you have to get to work, you have to do this and that and the other. But where are you consciously putting into your schedule self-care and self-awareness? It's a must. For me, at 5:30, 6 o'clock, before I start my second job, I put the computer down and I take a walk. That's part of self-care. Or sometimes I just stop completely because I've been thinking so much and I'm over processed, and I just Netflix and chill for a moment, just for a moment. So my brain isn't working on doing something that doesn't doesn't cause my brain to work so much. That's part of self-care. Self-care and self-awareness includes good nutrition, getting enough sleep, connecting with others who support and encourage you, and also having exercise time, and also being including mindfulness. Now, people are going to ask me, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is a practice that you use to try to make you focus on the presence. It's a meditation. It's a form of meditation. For me, a lot of people like yoga, or they like regular meditation where they're breathing and they're just focusing on their breath and focusing on the moment right now, not your mind going off into what you need to do, what you need to do in the future. Just focusing and cherishing the moment right now. For me, I incorporate self-care and mindfulness as prayer time. You know, others might see it as yoga, others might enjoy just meditation, but for me, is I enjoy prayer time. So prayer time can be included as part of mindfulness. So what is resilience? Let's talk a little bit about resilience. I had shared with you that by changing your mindset and changing the way your negative thoughts, purposely changing your negative thoughts into something positive, gives you hope and gives you an ability to see yourself in a better situation. And that gives you hope, and that leads to resilience. So the ability to recover from setbacks, adapt well to change, and keep going, or to choose not to give up in the face of adversity, we emerge stronger, wiser, and more able. Stress and crisis can propel you either to excel into something better, or you can become avoidant where you're frozen, or you can then dwell on the negative. And it's your choice. And everyone does it. Everyone, for a moment during a crisis, might focus on the negative and what is happening at the time. But what's important is making that decision and that choice to want better and to change. And that's what becoming resilient is about. It starts with the choice. Becoming more resilient requires a shift in mindset. It's not easy. Our minds are used to what's familiar, and it's hard sometimes to change. But wanting that better, our minds go into a process. Our minds love the familiar, but we need to challenge ourselves to want to do something more to improve our lives. And it's a commitment that you have to make. It's a commitment. So it requires a shift in mindset. It starts with a decision and a commitment to want to heal and to want to become better. Mental resilient techniques. So naming your experience is the beginning steps for becoming resilient. So retelling your narrative, talking about your story in your own perspective and in your own view, it propels you and it elevates you to engage in a process that's called processing. It's processing your emotions, and it's a step towards transformation and healing. So speaking about your experience is excellent, and speaking about it in your point of view with that advantage point of your point of view and owning your story just starts the process. Course correct your thoughts. We talked about, I mentioned this before. We can't control what happens, the outside events. We can't control other people, but yet we can make a choice in how we respond to stressful events. We can think about ourselves in a different way. I use a lot, for me, during my time in healing from complex PTSD, I personally had to use and change. Complex PTSD incorporates depression, panic attacks, anxiety. I suffered from the anxiety. And it took me time to understand how to change my thoughts. I struggled in the past with a lot of self-doubt and low self-esteem and low self-worth. And in order to change your thoughts for me, I had to use affirmations. I have a deck of affirmation cards where it just gives me a message to start the day. For example, here, this one says, I am safe. And I would read it to myself and repeat it over. I'm safe, I'm safe, or I am worthy, I am loved, I am grateful, I'm inspiring, I have something to say, I have a message, I have a story. I also posted post-its on my mirror in my bathroom every morning just to repeat to myself the things that I loved about myself, right? So, you know, if you get to know me, I think I'm funny. and and I enjoy and I'm passionate about mental health. So, you know, that's something that I love about myself. So these are ways to try to change your thought patterns, your negative thought patterns through affirmations, through post-its, through journaling. Those are some of the ways. And if you notice yourself imagining a negative future possibility, take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. It really helps because the breath that you take goes directly to your prefrontal cortex, and that's where we make decisions. That's the area of the brain where we make decisions. And if you take a moment to breathe, it'll redirect you from making, you know, spontaneous um, reactions instead of calming yourself to respond. So, so when self-help is not enough, when do you seek assistance when what you're doing is you think is not enough? So when your thoughts are out of control or your emotions are affecting your relationship, your work, your sense of well-being, is starting to affect your family, never feel embarrassed to ask for help. Never. I mean, I wish we can get to a point where mental wellness is just as important and just the same in the same sentence as physical wellness. If you're not feeling well, you cannot make good and rational decisions if you're not well. So if it's starting to affect those areas in your life, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay not to be okay. Struggle with When you're struggling with painful challenges like a major illness, a loss of a loved one, a divorce, a job problems, or you may be challenged with the cares of others, your children or your elderly parents, or you know, people that you care about. When alcohol or drugs are interfering with your health, your emotions, your relationships, your work, or your ability to complete your day-to-day responsibilities. When you have confusion, you're fraught with emotions which need the perspective of a caring yet unbiased person to help you sort through difficult choices or just to hear you out. When you're feeling that you're no longer worth living, when you're hopeless and you rather die and you just want to get rid of the pain. Now, this here and this distress and this situation, this is really key to hear people and believe people when they say that they don't want to live anymore. At that juncture, you have to find help right away, whether it's with a suicide prevention hotline. In every different country, they should have one. You would Google right away. In New York City, we have mobile crisis crisis teams that come to your house and do the assessment right there. And if anything, in the United States, you just call 911. But you cannot ever, when someone feels that they want to harm themselves, please take them seriously and get them the help that they need. So the benefits of therapy. I'll be honest, if I didn't have my therapist, I don't know. I've had her for like 15 years. I love this lady. Like, oh my goodness. I want to take her and just, oh, she's part of family now. So therapy, the benefits of therapy is that it's a safe place. It's a place where the person is objective. They don't know you. They don't know your family really well. You know, they won't know your family. They'll get to know you. And you're able to share anything with them that you may not have had the nerve to even share with someone else, not even your best friend. It's just very open, safe space. Therapists are not allowed to share what happens in session. It is confidential by law. Not even with children are we allowed to share unless the person is going to, if the person is wanting to harm someone or they want to harm themselves. Therapy doesn't have to be long-term. It could be short-term. You are fully in control as to how long you want to be in therapy, unless you're court mandated, but that's a different story. And it can be a supplement to other sources of emotional support. So for me, faith and therapy was what did it for me, was the perfect combination, but it could be other things for you. And it could be as a supplement, not against it, but with it, working along with it. Therapy is not a punishment. It's actually, I enjoy talking to her. I enjoy my time with my therapist. So it's not a punishment. It should be part of life. I can't wait to the day where therapy can be, like I said, equivalent and part of our yearly checkup, to do yearly wellness, mental health wellness checkups. If we consist of body, mind, and soul. And those three parts, if we're not well, it's not gonna go well. So we need to seek the help that we need, even if it's just to check in. You may not have a serious crisis, and you should not wait till there's a serious crisis to seek therapy. It should be like an ongoing conversation. How you doing? How you feeling? How's it going? So tips for supporting each other. This is really big because a lot of us, I didn't know for a long time what gaslighting meant. Really, I didn't. And that's something that I learned in, later on and in school. I was shocked. But when someone tells you, don't panic, calm down. Oh, stop being so sensitive. Oh, you're taking everything personal. Those are some phrases that are considered gaslighting, meaning that you're minimizing what the other person feels and you're not validating and acknowledging how they feel. I never knew that was it. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know the terminology, honestly, until I learned it later on. But try to be more sensitive and more compassionate. And some ways of being more empathetic is try saying, yes, this is frustrating and difficult. I can hear you. How can I help you? What do you need from me at this current moment to help you? And I understand how you feel, how you can feel that way. Those are validating expressions that are more sensitive, more compassionate, and more empathetic. So I implore you, mental health is wealth. It's incredible. It's made a huge difference in my life. And I hope that I can encourage you to seek help if you need it. And I'll open the floor if anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Very good. You could stop sharing, please.
Okay, we'll do.
Please see your beautiful face.
Any questions? Let me look through here.
I don't have a question, but I'll just say that great presentation. Thank you so much. It's such necessary conversation.
Yes.
And I too am looking forward to the day when this is normal, when this is like normal.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I wonder, if we can have just an open discussion. Why do you think the stigma is so big in our culture? Like, how do you think, we can continue this work in trying to break the stigma? Because it's so big in our cultures that mental health, oh, I'm not cuckoo. Oh, I don't need it. Oh, I'm good. I could, I could talk to my family and to my friends and I'll get over this. Sometimes it's courageous. It's an act of courage to say I need help, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with it. So my crusade is to try to get into areas from our cultures and our and women in particular to seek the help that they need.
Yeah. I think it may, from what I see from socializing, with women, that it appears that you associate it with, most people associate it with, like, you have to be ready for a mental hospital or something. They don't understand that it can be as simple as, I've done it, taking a lunch break and then you go see your therapist and then you go back to work. Because you're going through things like what you said earlier on. You're going through a divorce, you're going through a breakup of a long-term or short-term relationship, or someone did something to you that was just really screwed up and it messed with your head. That's what happened to me, and you just go and you sit and you pour out your heart, and it really works that it's a objective third party, like you say, that doesn't know your family or friends. I think that's another thing. Like, people are like, I don't want my family, I don't want my colleagues, I don't want my friends to know that I'm talking to someone. So that, you automatically get the stigma that, oh, she's crazy or he's crazy. And that's really not the case at all. Thank you so much for this, because now I'm thinking we need to build a marketplace so we have more options, because I need to sit down and talk to someone. As you were talking, I was like, yeah, I need to talk to someone about that. I need to talk to someone about that. Like, it's some things I need to talk to someone about. So I'm going to do that,
Can I also share that, sure. Do you know how they say, like, when you're going to buy a house, it's all about location, location, location? Well, when you're going to find a therapist, it's all about connection, connection, connection. And a lot of people may seek therapy, but not connect with the first therapist that they find. You have to feel the person. Do you connect with this person? Does this person, some people also look for, the same culture, the same sex, therapist that has the same racial background, only because they feel they'll connect better with them and their experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's about connection. And even if you don't connect with the first one, a lot of people give up after the first one. They'll say, therapy's not for me. I tried looking for one. I can't find someone. It's like a doctor or finding a lawyer or finding a physician or finding a specialist. You try to get it through referrals. You try to get a therapist through your insurance. You try to get a therapist through, word of mouth, that someone else has seen them and they enjoyed them and they really thought this person was great. But it's about connection and not giving up until you find the right person that you feel is right for you.
I want to share my experience. I tried 2 different therapists, and I found myself like I can teach this person. Like, I have a control problem, I guess. I don't know. But for me, with my self-assessment, I know I feel stress and I feel that, but I really feel that I'm okay. And so, but I took the self-assessment test and I got an 18. I don't know if that's like a crisis. I don't, so obviously, and my daughters, my children tell me, mommy, you should get
Right.
counseling or whatever. So I have a hard time recognizing it and saying,
Right. Right. And that's why I think it's important. I mean, this self-assessment is also a good tool, but it's important to check in. And I think that we can't wait until there's a crisis to seek therapy. It should be part of life. It should be like doing your medical checkup once a year. It should be, let me check in and see how I'm doing emotionally. And I know that it's easier said than done because trying to find a therapist is another issue. But usually now, at least in the States, I've noticed that medical doctors will do a quick assessment on how you're doing when you do your physical checkup. And medical doctors, your primary physician, should have a list of referrals of therapists that they work with. So you can even start there by when you do your physical checkup annually. When here in the States, I've noticed that the medical doctors are now including a wellness assessment really quick to see how you're doing. And you have to ask, can you refer me to someone that I can talk to? Because they should have a list in their office.
I have a question.
Diana, I like that idea that you mentioned earlier about, there being almost like going for your annual physical, a yearly mental wellness checkup, just as important as our physical selves are, medically, our, mental health is just as important. So I like that idea of a yearly mental wellness checkup.
Yeah. And also with COVID, this whole COVID has been a collective trauma experience, right? So it's global, right? So in the I can only speak for the United States, unfortunately. I'm sorry, my other Sestra sisters who are around the world, but there has been a huge push in New York in specifically to have more mental wellness counselors and therapists. They're doing everything possible to do whatever it is to offer these services for free in New York. They're for free. I can put in the chat you would call or text NYC Well, and they will also connect you right away. They can talk, counselors on the line, ready to talk to you if needed. So check in Google in your countries, because this whole COVID situation has propelled the necessity to have mental wellness as a regular part of your wellness, as important as your physical and your mental wellness. Here in New York, it's a huge, 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 huge push to try to make therapy affordable or free and available 24/7. So I don't know about the other countries, my sisters, but in New York, that's what we have here.
Yeah, speaking of COVID, I heard on the news today. I've heard it before, like even last year when COVID first pretty much hit the scene, that the alcoholism, like the purchasing of alcohol online or just in general, 200%.
Yes.
And they said, and I just saw that they have like a special liver disease that's developed, chronic liver disease that women are getting because they're just drinking so much. Right. So they're coping by drinking alcohol, and you see it on social media. Like, it starts out, oh, I have a glass of wine every day. You know what I mean? But then people are doing it because they're home and they're home alone. People are struggling. Women are struggling. If you're single, like you don't have a husband or you don't have children and you're just home alone and then you're stuck, you can't go out and socialize because of COVID, that, like, what are you supposed to do in that
Right.
situation? So the counseling is very, very important. You're correct, because
Right.
of COVID, and I'm sure they're getting a lot of business. They should be, but
Yeah.
some people are turning to the bottle and other things. And
And
so I
other
guess
things.
like the addiction is gonna
Yes.
get out of
Absolutely.
control. So
Annette,
yeah.
do you have your hand up for?
Yes, I do. I was just, I'm just thinking, like, we know that COVID happened, but pre-COVID, do you see a trend in people getting more and more stressed? And if you could just talk a little bit about young people, the youth, because it's my observation that, social media is putting all this pressure on our young people, and they're confronting things that we didn't when we were their age. And
Absolutely.
so that's exacerbating like the generation gap.
Absolutely. And it's true. And before I get to the youth, I must say my area that I chose to focus on is on domestic violence and um, trauma work. And just in New York City for this COVID period, domestic violence calls have gone up 300%. 300% because people are locked in their homes, like you said. They're constantly, living with the abuser, and they can't get out. And so it's huge. They're, it's a huge situation. And that's why the push to get mental wellness and mental therapy and the stigma out is so critical. In terms of the youth, suicide rates are up. Um, So it's imperative, but not the problem, the issue with youth and millennials is that they are so focused on social media that there's campaigns out there to try to get them therapy, telehealth, online. That's what they love. And be COVID, a lot of us stopped completely seeing clients face to face. So it's really a push to have mental health therapy online at any given moment right away. Like speak to a counselor online right away. The whole suicide preventive hotline was also called here in the United States has significantly increased the numbers of of calling into the hotline. So there's a lot of push of thinking out of the box of the traditional face-to-face mental health, in the office kind of thing. More so it's on the phone doing telehealth, making ourselves available, you know um in an instant, right? So texting, chatting, Zooming, it's not Zoom, it's telehealth or Doxy, trying to make ourselves available in terms of a Zoom kind of platform so that we can see the person right away. That is what's helping a lot of the youth because they like the social media platform. They like that platform instead of coming into an office or speaking to someone face to face, which a lot of us, because we're re-entering, we're doing both. We're doing face to face because some clients like face to face, but with the youth in particular, they like chatting, that 24-hour texting, and that's available here in New York already.
Thank you for that. But what I'm saying is that I find that the social media is causing them more stress.
Absolutely. The bullying, the cyber bullying,
It's like
the TikToks. Have you ever seen the TikToks? Some of the TikToks out there,
I
and
have one of my girls that loves the TikToks.
but there's some
But
TikToks that are like, wow.
okay, in the field, if is there a push to remedy or to try to address the fact that social media is impacting our youth in this way? Because it's like, okay, this is happening, things are getting worse, we're getting more stressed, and now we can adopt and reach them where they are. But is there anything, anything to address the fact that a lot of young people are feeling a lot of pressure? Because you find people who everybody has a wonderful life.
Right.
So, do is that any discussion happening?
there are discussions about that, but with children, the monitoring starts at home. And if I can just share, there are uh, websites out there that you can monitor whatever your child is viewing, right? And everything that, everything starts first at home. So there are apps right now that can monitor what your child is viewing and seeing in social media. And then monitoring what they're viewing is very important, and talking to them about the cyberbullying and asking them to please feel comfortable to talk to you whenever something they see inappropriate or they're facing bullying. The challenging, there's also the challenge with having people who are asking them to do certain things that are inappropriate. Like, having that conversation with your child is so critical. And having those apps, it's not about privacy. These are your children. Really contemplating about I have an app called Open Eyes. I can send it, and I monitor my minors, my 12-year-old's app, because social media, to see where she's getting into, because we have to monitor them as parents. Okay. And we have to share with them and have that beautiful conversation of, because the more you talk to them and the more you talk in their language, like their TikTok language, and just hear them out, they're able to share what's happening in their lives. It's difficult because we're parents. Sometimes they don't want to share. They think their friends are cool. They don't want to talk. But it's about monitoring what they're looking at, and also being involved with their phrases, so to speak, being involved with the things that they're looking at, like TikTok, Snapchat, being familiar with those things, because we have to be like on their level to get them to also open up to us. You know, it's I know it's difficult. There is the cyberbullying, there is sex trafficking, there is all those worries. And that's why it starts in the home with monitoring, and then doing an assessment to see whether your child needs more help, and then referring them to a therapist or your primary pediatrician, uh, in getting them the help that they need. That's where it starts.
To add on to that, to your question also, Annette, um, I work with this population, and anxiety and depression, the rates have gone up tremendously in that adolescent population. And a lot of it has been, obviously because, they're, being confined due to COVID, but also they are spending a lot more time on that social media platform because they don't have the accessibility to, meet with friends and,
Social.
socialize like they had done in the past. So with that, they have accessibility to everything. And what I've realized is that although they have access and they may feel they understand, they can't really conceptualize what they're actually watching or reading. They may hear it and can repeat it, but they're not actually mature enough, depending on whatever their stage of development is, to really conceptualize what they're repeating, so to speak. But what I've done, and honestly, it's going to just take for all the people who are in the field to be able to make suggestions to parents and families, is to create boundaries and limits. And like Diana was saying, awareness, making sure you're aware of what your children are watching and how much time they're spending. And time should be very limited. And, just creating that base so that, it's understood between parent and child. Obviously, parents are going to be in control of what, they're paying the bill basically, but, just being sure that your children's time is limited on that social media, because there's just so much out there. And sometimes it's a lot to filter out when they're on so many different, and then they have like these little side accounts. And so there's a lot to be, aware about. So, the goal is to kind of minimize the time that's spent on so any devices really, more so, not even social media, but just on the devices, period. The time that's spent, it's taking away. These kids are lacking motivation and exercise. Their weight gains. I mean, the results that I get back from, are just blowing through the roof. When you look at, kids' cholesterol and their blood sugars, it's crazy because they're spending so much time on these devices. So there's just so much to look at when it comes to that. But I think it's just going to be on an individual basis. As a parent, you've got to hone in. As a practitioner, you've got to hone in. So everyone's kind of being on the same page and encourage, to limit the time spent, not taking it away, but just limiting it, I think is going to be a benefit.
I had to put in, that's a great point. I had to put in a timer on my daughter's phone, like through the cell phone company. I pay a little extra, but at a certain specific time, that's done. It's it. Like, and because I saw that it was lack of sleep. They were staying on all night. You think you're sleeping, and they're up still, looking through their phones, chatting with their friends. No. Mm-mm. So it is. I agree with what Kim was saying. It's based on your individual, as a parent, what boundaries you want to put, and monitoring them starts at home, and then, if necessary and needed, seeking the help that you need and teaming up with your physician and finding a therapist that can help you through it. Hope that
I
answers your
have a
question.
basic question since this is mental health wellness 1.
Mhm.
I'm sorry about these videos. When you say therapist, right? I do understand, there's psychologists, there's psychiatrists, there's therapists, there's even when I'm putting these titles, when I'm introducing women, because we have a lot of women of different professions, and so can you just explain a little bit about that, the women and the titles, the education behind that? What should you be looking for if you are looking for a therapist, or is it psychologist? Or are you looking for a psychiatrist? What's the difference? If you could just explain that and maybe say, what you are, thank you.
So I am a clinical master's social worker. I went to grad school to become a psychotherapist. I do not give medication. I can't. I can diagnose, but a psychiatrist primarily is a medical doctor, is a doctor, and they are able to prescribe medications. A psychologist is also a doctor, but it's not they cannot prescribe medication. Okay, so they're like a PhD they have a doctorate in philosophy in psychology. And then,
Their interventions are just behavioral.
yes, they're right. And then there's myself, which is MSW, that's postgraduate. I'm coming straight out of college just now. And I have to pass a licensing exam with the board, with the National Association of Social Workers. And then you become an LMSW. And then there's LCSWs. It depends on the number of years, right? So after 3,000 hours of providing therapy, you're eligible to take another exam with the board and become a licensed clinical social worker. Licensed clinical social workers can supervise, or should be supervised, or I should be having supervision from a licensed clinical social worker, because they have the 3,000 hours and the experience necessary so that I do supervision to go over what's happening with my cases, and they can give me the guidance that I need, to continue working well with the family or the person that I'm working with. There's also licensed counselors, mental health counselors. That's a different license. They also go to school. They also receive licenses. I'm not too familiar with them, but there are mental health counselors is a title. And there's Kim. She's a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I'm not sure if she can give therapy. I know that she works probably in a facility with clients and she's monitoring them, but I don't believe that you can provide therapy. I'm not sure about that. Kim?
Yes, psych nurse practitioner. We have the capability to do therapy, but it's primarily diagnostic and medication management. But we can do therapy. Most times we'll just refer to therapists and, focus on diagnostics and medication management.
Right. So you're primarily, you see people on an emergency basis or on a crisis basis?
No. Well, right now I'm actually working with an outpatient clinic, so to speak. I work with several therapists, and we work collaboratively with like mentors, therapists, and myself. And pretty much the therapist will do regular therapy, and if there is a need for medication management or diagnoses of some sort, then they'll see me. But it usually ends up because a large part of I see the entire family scope, but the large population is adolescents. So I do make the time to do some bit of psychotherapy in each one of my appointments alongside med management.
Awesome. Awesome. So there's a lot of other new licenses that are coming out, but primarily if you're seeking a therapist, usually it's a licensed master social worker or a licensed clinical social worker. And the way that it usually works is that they work in alignment. They work in alignment with a psychiatrist and a psychologist, but a psychiatrist mainly if the client needs that higher level of care where they need medication, and they'll refer them to the psychiatrist. So usually in a clinic, just like Kim had mentioned, we work either with the psychiatric nurse practitioner or a psychiatrist if your clients need a higher level of assistance and they need medication, then we refer them out to the psychiatrist for doing that assessment and prescribing them medication. Does that answer your question? Do you have any more questions?
Thank you so much. That does. I just wanted to educate, we're trying to educate everyone as well, because not everyone understands the titles and who they should be looking for when they're looking through their job or whoever, however they're trying to find someone. So you say therapist, what does that mean? And we want to make sure everyone is safe too, not just talking to anyone.
Right.
Right.
So thank you so much for that.
Yes.
And we're going after, it's after 8 o'clock now. So, Diane, great job. Really, we appreciate you giving us your time. And this was awesome.
Thank
we're looking
you so much. Looking forward to more.
Right. And just in closing, if you could just tell us about next week, part 2, what to expect in part 2, please.
Sure. So part 2 next week, I can't wait. I think that it's going to be also enriching and a wonderful discussion on coping with COVID and coping with the anxiety of re-entering. Now that we're in COVID, and a lot of us are starting to talk, they're starting to talk about going back to work and, socialize, going back to normalcy, how that can also bring up some anxiety. And Kim is going to be leading that. And I will be there just to assist, and also Judelia. And I'm not sure if Daniela, who's another member of our counseling team, and Annette, we will be there to also assist and take part of the conversation. So I totally look look forward to it. And I thank you, ladies. This is awesome. Thank you for allowing me to have this wonderful, critical, crucial conversation. And I look forward to having some more. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you,
Have a
Jadelia,
wonderful,
Kim.
amazing day.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Good night. See you next week.
See you
Same
next week.
time.
Same time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, ladies. This is awesome. Thank you for allowing me to have this wonderful critical